being
Sure.
successful to me, yeah, that's the goal is like, I can bring value to the more people I can bring value to, then I'm successful, right? I'm successful if I can share something with people, and that'll give like,
Mhm.
that's what I enjoy the most. I went back to the Bay Area and I had a meetup for my real estate group, and I hadn't been back in 4 years. And this guy came up to me and he's like, "Man, I just want to thank you because like I met Mike at your meetup, and this guy was a new realtor. He met
Mhm.
Mike and he's done like 20 transactions because of the event I put on."
All right, tonight, Megan and I are interviewing a person I've known for about, I don't know, 10 or 15 years now. His name is Beau Eckstein, and he is in the real estate, commercial finance, and business ownership areas. And he has vast experience in real estate, financing, franchises, business acquisition, you name it. This guy knows how to do it or what it's about. A great consultant. He can help you with darn near anything business related. So that's going to be all the introduction I give, because he's going to be able to say it all himself and then some. So, Beau, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, so we'll just get started with how Beau and I met, and Megan knows Beau too. So and we can talk about that too if it makes sense. Um, I used to run a meetup back in the Bay Area in California. I think I started in 2009 or 2010, and Beau started coming maybe a year or two into that. I'm not sure. But Beau is always focused on his marketing. He may be in real estate or, business ownership or coaching or whatever, but he's all about the marketing. And that's why he and I, kind of clicked right away, because so am I. And, in the beginning, this was way back when, I was telling everybody to do video. You got to do video, got to do video. And he took it to heart. And why don't you tell us how that turned out for you? There's kind of like two parts to the video story. There's the then part and there's the now part, which is kind of a neat bookend. So why don't you tell us what your experience was with the first time you started with video?
Sure. So I used to also run a meetup group, and mine was based in real estate and real estate investing. And so anyway, one day, one of the guys filmed a segment and made a highlight reel, and he posted it on YouTube. I didn't really think about it. And then a few months later, maybe a year later, I got a call from a casting company, and they're like, "Hey, we're doing a house flipping show, and we saw you. We'd love for you to come out and audition." And long story short, I ended up doing 12 episodes on HGTV because of one stupid YouTube video. And so fast forward to, a couple of years later, the light bulb went off, and I realized that, YouTube is really the place to go. I mean, obviously, Bill and I talked marketing for years, and we started a podcast, and it took me a few years. I wish back then I would have started it in 2015, because I would have grown way faster. And so to this day, now we've done well over 1,000 uploads to YouTube.
Yeah.
Wow.
And yeah, but the reality of it is if you put yourself out there, good things will happen, and that's what happened.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. I fully believe that to be true. And I've had similar experiences to that, but on a different platform. Why do you say YouTube? Why, what's the draw to YouTube versus like Instagram or TikTok or, another platform? Facebook.
YouTube. Well, YouTube's the second largest search engine in the world. So things can get indexed, unlike TikTok for right now, can't be indexed as far as my knowledge. So it's very easy to rank your videos and be found and search for specific terms. So I do a lot of SBA financing. So I might do a video on SBA 504 loans, and my video now is ranking first in the second largest search engine, which is owned by Google, those videos also get indexed on Google. And it's kind of and
Okay.
it's evergreen. It's evergreen. So TikTok's not so much evergreen. And so, and
Mm,
plus my avatar, they're on YouTube. They're searching for the content I'm putting out. So that's why I love YouTube as my primary. Now I definitely
right.
could be more involved in TikTok and things. That would also help my business a lot.
Right. Okay. That makes sense.
Yeah. So, you know, Beau mentioned his avatar. And
Right.
why don't you explain who like a few of your avatars might be, and then we'll explain why it makes more sense for you to concentrate on YouTube versus other platforms.
Okay, so I have a couple different pillars. I think on YouTube you can have some different avatars. So I have pillars. One pillar of mine is lending and loans. And then another pillar of mine is franchises and business acquisition. So those pillars represent the avatars for each of those pillars. So you can have a couple pillars because you're not a one size fits all. I'm multi-dimensional, and a lot of us out there have many things that we do
Mm,
underneath our umbrella. And so, for the loan business, it's pretty much any business owner for SBA financing. It's any business owner that wants to start, buy, or expand a business. They want to listen to my content because I'm giving them relevant information. I'm not a stuffy banker. And instead of them calling a bank and not getting a call back, they go to me and I point them in the right direction and get them from A to Z. So it works very well. And I think we've had well over 1,000 booked appointments off of YouTube in the last 2.5 years. 1,000. I think it's more like 1,200, but let's just say 1,000.
right. And this is amazing because I own a business and I could have used your help in the past in my first time purchasing a business, and now you're helping me out this time around. But I didn't even know that like there was a service like yours offered. How how would you say that that's a common thing that like people, are people searching for you? How do you get your business?
I get
Is a
90%
lot
of
of
my
it
business.
YouTube or?
Yeah, 90% of it now is coming from my podcast. My podcast is a YouTube show, or
Mhm.
guesting on other podcasts. So I'm a regular, weekly regular on another person's show. He has 50,000 subscribers. I get a lot of leads from that now. So I'm going to find more podcasts, YouTube, which are YouTube shows, and get on all of them, right?
Right.
Because then I get their audience. That's the fastest way to grow your business is to get. So my friend has 50,000 subscribers. I was just on a podcast that had 20,000 YouTube subscribers. So if I keep on doing that, my business just booms. And I'm
Right.
reading a
Just
really,
because of
yeah, go ahead.
no, I was just going to say, yeah, just because of all the eyes that are on there that weren't before that.
Yeah, the beauty of YouTube and it being a search engine is that we know what people are searching for. So we make videos around what people are searching for, and then just magically those search terms show up when somebody, types in, I need a SBA 504 loan. Beau's going to be at the top, or sometimes he's in like the first 8 spots out of 10 because we know how to do that. And he's people just type in things like basic questions and his videos appear, and if you see enough of that, like, oh my gosh, this guy knows what he's talking about.
Right.
Let me book an appointment. It's a no obligation appointment. It's 15 minutes and they can figure out together whether Beau can help them or not. And I would imagine 95 times out of 100, you can in some form or fashion. It may not be, hey, let's do I can get you a loan or whatever, but it may be, I can guide you in the right direction. But almost every time he's going to be able to help them just based on what they needed and typed into a search engine.
It's truly
Right.
amazing. And now that I'm so involved with it, I study other people because I go onto their YouTube channels and I watch how they create their funnels. And there's so many people right now that are building nice business models just from YouTube. It's truly amazing to see. I mean, different service providers, coaches, people teaching niche subjects, like, for example, how to buy a boutique motel. And then there's a person that has
Right.
coaching programs, right? And they sell a $3,000 or $5,000 a year coaching program. So you can really
Hmm.
figure out, and that's where you start with the framework of how this all works. So my channel started just regarding like entrepreneurship and real estate investing, lending. Did talk a little bit about SBA, but as I got more passionate about SBA, I started talking about SBA more. And then because I talked about SBA more, I got more leads for SBA loans, right? Because more people were like finding the information. And then over
Hmm.
time, and then about 3 years ago, I, because YouTube basically showed me that people were really wanting to buy businesses, I started creating content around that. And then I got into franchising. And then I became a franchise broker. And now people come to me and that's another thing I do. So my channel has grown because I've listened to what people wanted. And your business, it's just like your YouTube is the hub, and then you have all the spokes off of it. And the spokes could be, and Bill and I have talked about this for years. We used to say it's the website, but now I think it's
Hmm.
the YouTube channel is the main hub. And then the spoke is your different landing pages and websites.
Wow.
Right.
Okay. I like that. Because
But it's
I'm regular. Yeah.
when you think about his funnel though, it's really simple. I mean, it's kind of almost embarrassing for two marketers to be sitting here saying how simple this funnel is, but it's basically we create an SEO type video that's got good content that answers a specific question most of the time, and
Okay.
there's a call to action in there that says book a call,
Okay.
and people book a call, and that's it.
Wow.
I mean, that's essentially it, right?
That's amazing.
And video does the selling for me because people know, like, and trust me before I even meet them. It's like the most unbelievable thing. Yesterday,
Right.
yesterday I was on a call in one of the groups I belong to, and we had a speaker, and she got started selling homes, real estate. Right? She's just a
Hmm.
residential real estate agent, and she started just in 2018, and she didn't want to do traditional marketing like cold calling and this. So she started a
Mm.
YouTube channel. Well, she made $400,000 in commissions from her YouTube channel specifically in the last 2 or 3 years. So it's out
That's
there for anybody.
amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah. And I think like it's a quick video is something that, people can like save on their phone, save on their TikTok, save on their, YouTube account or wherever you save things and share it with their friends. And then, they could be like, I heard so-and-so having a conversation about this. And it's so easy to just click one button and share a contact or share a video. So that's so smart. I love this.
And think about the idea that once that video's out there, it's
Right.
out there forever.
Hmm.
And it's evergreen. I mean, yeah, rates might change or terms might change or whatever, but the process of buying and selling real estate or buying and selling businesses, it's the same for the past 100 years or whatever. There are contracts and there are terms and stuff like that, but it's really kind of very, very similar. And the neat thing is there are going to be other programs that come along offered by either the federal government or a state government or a municipality that you can put out there quickly, get it out there, be a first mover, and you're going to get all the traffic, and you might get a bunch of leads that way too. And if it goes away or whatever, so be it. But your videos really are. I mean, I used to call them silent salespeople, but they're just unpaid salespeople because they're not silent. People watch them, they hear what you're saying, but you don't ever have to make them again. You don't like have to make the same video again. So it's pretty awesome, actually. And it can serve as, like Beau said, the hub for everything you do. So you can create 1,000 pieces of content from one video if you think about it. Blog posts, newsletters, social media posts on various platforms, and you reach a whole bunch of people. And the real trick, and Beau can confirm this 100%, is you can't make a video. Well, some people will make a video and go viral, and that's great. But most of the time, you have to make about 100 videos before you start seeing any traction. But once you see that traction, once you see that kind of hockey stick, YouTube starts recommending you more and more and more. So you start showing up in search results more and more and more. You start showing up in their suggestions more and more and more. And you're not doing any more work. They're just helping you. They're marketing for you because they're saying, you know what? A lot of people are looking at this stuff. They're liking it. They're commenting on it. It must be good. I'm going to recommend this to more people. And that's how all the video algorithms work to an extent. Like, you know, TikTok, for example, they'll throw you out there. They'll throw your video out there for a few hours, see how many views you get. And if you get like 200, they're going to like stop promoting you. If you get 2,000, they're going to keep going until it kind of like peters out. So yeah,
it's really interesting, and it has to be like you have to follow like your exact content. Like, I'm trying to create something that's not my usual content, and like Beau was saying, like maybe YouTube is a place for me because I could branch off in different ways instead of trying to guide these people that are going in one way, you know, another way. So yeah, maybe YouTube is a good idea.
Yeah, I mean, my friend. Oh, go ahead, Bill.
No, go ahead, because I wanted to switch gears. So go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to say, there's the guy that I'm on his podcast, his YouTube show. He's done 11,000 videos. The guy is the most consistent person you can imagine, and he just buried his head down till he got like 3,000 or 4,000. I think it took him like 3,000 videos before he made $1. And now, he's making about $80,000 a year now in Google AdSense. And that's just going to compound and compound and compound and compound and compound. And then he makes about, through his channel, he's making about $500,000 a year now with all of his courses and events. So it's very doable. But then again, you got to be consistent, right? He doesn't edit his videos either, which is interesting. Most people edit. So there's a method for anybody who wants to stick with it to create a living from creating YouTube content.
So I will just throw in a minor, it's not really a correction, but he does edit his videos. He records a 30-minute video and chops it up into 3 pieces. So he has 3 pieces of content from every interview, and he puts those out throughout the day. So he's putting out at least 3 videos a day, sometimes multiples of 3.
No, he puts out like 6 to 8 videos a day.
Okay, so he's doing a couple full videos, but then he's breaking them up, right? So that's another way to do it.
Okay.
But yeah, he's not editing. He's not like going in and splicing stuff up and like putting pizzazz out there. And I watched one of his videos where he was talking about, how it took him so long to like make any money. And yeah, it was I want to say it was 2 years before he made like $5 or something crazy like that. But he was persistent and he just kept doing it. Now, he had the luxury of being in an established business before he started doing this. So this was kind of like an experiment, but it's paid off.
Right.
So it can be done. But it's hard and you will get discouraged. But just keep doing it. So can we switch gears a little bit? We can come back to this because this is really fun.
Let's switch gears.
Yeah. So you've been doing this. You've been in business for yourself or in real estate, financing, that kind of thing, for over 20 years now, right?
25.
25.
I'm 45 and I started when I was 20.
Yeah. So what did you
Wow.
start doing? What was your first job in this field or the real estate
I was a
industry?
telemarketer for a residential mortgage company when I was 20.
So did you make
Wow.
outbound calls?
I made outbound calls, and I was so good. I said, and then I started making loan officers all this money, and I said, okay, I got to get my license. And at 21, I got my real estate license. At that time, we could originate loans with just a real estate license in California.
Nice.
Wow. That's amazing. I mean, I feel like so many people like don't get to, just start their path out so young like that, but you did. Like, how did you always know where you were going or that you wanted to do
No,
something like this?
no, I wasn't a good student in high school. I wouldn't open books, or I didn't like to learn. Actually, I had a learning disability, and I was in like special needs class when I was in elementary school.
Mm-hmm.
But then I either wanted to be in law enforcement or I wanted to be in real estate. And I almost went into the military. And then I decided not to do that because I just wasn't cut out to be in the military.
Uh-huh.
So I got into real estate and started
Okay.
as a telemarketer, and then got my license at 21, and then started originating residential loans. And then I got, and then I opened a mortgage company with a big brokerage, and I moved to Lake Tahoe, and we opened a branch on the Nevada side, and
Mm-hmm.
bought a lot of real estate. I owned a small real estate franchise for a little while, and then when the downturn happened in real estate, I had to reposition because I lost everything pretty much, and that's when I got
Mm-hmm.
into doing hard money lending, and I started lending money to house flippers. And then I
Mm-hmm.
said, well, if these guys can flip houses, I can flip houses. And then I started flipping houses, and that's when I got casted for that TV show. And then later in life, I
Mm-hmm.
said, okay, well, I'm kind of burnt out of residential loans. I want to do commercial loans. And that's how I taught myself SBA lending. So
Right.
I guess the difference is between me and a lot of people is I still have the books open, where some
Mm-hmm.
people they're 45 years old and they're in their job and they're not satisfied, and but
Right.
they're not helping themselves by learning and expanding their minds. And so even though I wasn't a good student,
Mm-hmm.
I study. Actually, right before this call, I was studying every day. I study a little bit.
Yeah. I think that's
Yeah.
hugely important. And I love that you're being honest about that, because I feel like a lot of really successful people say that they struggled in school or had a learning disability or, some kind of issue that didn't support them succeeding well in a traditional school environment. So like, what advice would you give to maybe kids that like aren't fitting into that norm? You did it. You figured it out later in life. Like what advice would you give to kids to go down their own path and find their own, find their way out of that box, I guess.
Well, I think people need some sort of coach to
A
like
coach, yeah.
help them prompt their ideas and make it become a reality. And
That's
that's what I'm
great.
kind of doing. That's what I'm transitioning, doing to a certain level. And Bill's helping me because he sees all my ideas over the last 15 years. But
Yeah, that's so great.
that's why I'm becoming the business ownership coach. Not so much, it's because I have the same calls with people every day, and those calls are,
Mhm.
I'm really burnt out of my W-2 job. I'm pretty, I'm comfortable. I make 150 grand a year. I've got 2 rental properties. I've got 100 grand in the 401k, but they're
Mhm.
burnt out and they're not satisfied. So business
Yes.
ownership coach was created to help these people build a business or start a business or buy a franchise, or at least get some good advice from me and
Mhm.
from people on my team. So that's what I'm most excited about now is to help 10,000 people become entrepreneurs
Yes.
in the next 10 years. And to answer
That's
your question
amazing.
about, um, the youth, I get a lot
Mhm.
of calls from 21-year-olds that watch the podcast, and they're not looking for a loan at the moment, but I try to give them good advice. So I think early on, you have to encourage your children to follow their passions and then help them like, hey, mom or dad, I don't want to go to college. I know you're really pro education, and I like education too, but I just don't want to go to school. I want to do something different. I want to follow. And so how can you prompt those kids? Maybe your son wants or daughter wants to be a HVAC technician. Well, they can become multimillionaires owning an HVAC company. Or maybe you teach your children about cash flow and you help them get a vending route when they're in high school. And each vending machine nets them $300 to $500 a month. And you start building that. And before you know it, they have 30 vending machines and they're making 6 figures a year just working on a vending route, right? Like it's but nobody teaches the kids. I shouldn't say nobody.
No.
Not enough
It's
people.
not common.
It's not common. And I think that's what we need to change. And so now that I'm having my first child, that's the things I would think that I want to instill in my children is these values.
For sure.
Yeah.
And congratulations.
Yeah. Congratulations.
Yeah. It was a shock, but hey.
Oh, it'll get more shocking.
I'm going to be an old dad. That's
awesome.
But it's more common now to be an old dad. People are having kids later in life, so.
Absolutely. Yeah.
That would be me. Yeah. That's awesome. Yeah, I think you touch on something that's really important, and that is, so I did go to college. I didn't learn that I probably had a learning disability until like 2 weeks ago because I'm just stupid. But I was talking to a counselor somewhere like completely aside from me, and he says, "Do you have ADHD?" And I said, I don't know. He goes, "I think you do," because he and I have interacted, for a couple months and just in various settings. But but I did go to college. I was the first person in my family to go to college. I paid my way through. I worked 40 hours a week, and then some, and worked and went to school like more than full time. Like I was not a 12 unit a quarter or semester kid. I was like a 22. And it was tough, but I found that the busier I was, the less time I had to goof around. So I actually got stuff done because that kind of lends itself to the ADHD. If I get distracted, I don't get anything done, or I get things done, but they're not like productive. Where I had a job and a college job, that's all I did. So I didn't have time to like wander off and go to parties and stuff like that. But the point is, that was, a long time ago. And I think that was the beginning. This is like the late 80s, right? That was the beginning of the traditional career path was kind of like vanishing. And now I think it's almost gone. Like you're not going to get a job and work there 40 years. It's just not going to happen. That's not to say it won't happen for one or two people that because it will. But most people will have, like when I was going to college, people were saying, you're going to change your career 8 times. And I'm like, oh shit, that sucks. Now I think it's more like 20 times. So, and even look at a business person like Beau. You haven't been in the same exact job role for the last 25 years. You've evolved. As your interests change, so does your direction. And I think that's a good thing to instill in kids, because I think I see the W-2 job like kind of vanishing. And it's going to be more like the gig economy, and you're going to have to like learn how to make money in various income streams. But the flip side to that is, well, there's 2 flip sides, I think, or at least 2 benefits to that. One is you're going to have a diversified income stream. So if one of them fails or goes belly up, you have 7 or 8 other ones, right? Whereas if you have a job and it goes belly up, you got to go find another job and you got to hope you can pay your rent, right?
Mm-hmm.
The other thing is, I think you can leverage all those pieces. Like, let's say you have 8 streams of income. You can work on growing each one of those and leveraging them so that you can become, if not independently wealthy, at least wealthier than you would if you were working for somebody else.
Mm-hmm.
So that's all good stuff. So that was just my aside. But you guys have gone down that path too. So, you know what I'm talking about.
Mm-hmm.
So your first job was a telemarketer. Let's go back a little bit before that. So where did you grow up?
I was born on the East Coast in the suburbs of New York, and lived in New York and New Jersey and Pennsylvania. And I moved to California from Pennsylvania. I think I was about 10 or 11 years old.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
And then I spent most of my life in the Bay Area. And then I moved to Tahoe in 2005, and then the downturn happened, and then moved back to the Bay Area. And then in 2014, I bought a townhouse in Las Vegas, and I always knew I wanted to live there full time, but I would go on the weekends. And then in 2019, I moved here full time. So I'll be here 4 years, I think, in Las Vegas.
Yeah. Awesome. So you talked about the TV show Flip It to Win It. That was a pretty big win, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I have to tell you, my kids and I and my wife still watch that show whenever we're flipping through the channels and that's on. It's like, oh, we got to watch this, because it was a really good show. Actually, it was a good premise. I don't know why it didn't last more than a season, but it was a fun show. And it was basically based in California and had to do with like home auctions and stuff like that. And whoever made the most profit in an episode would win that episode or whatever. It was a neat
competition?
concept.
I didn't realize
Yeah.
it was a competition show.
Yeah. It was really cool. It's kind of like MasterChef in that respect,
Right.
in that there's a competition. Somebody wins and somebody loses. Now, these guys didn't go home, but they just didn't win.
Yeah.
It was the same cast throughout the whole season, right?
Yep.
Yeah. So now you've kind of moved into the whole business coaching, business acquisition, business ownership. You've talked a little bit about that, why it's important to you, and how you're going to, try to instill those values in your children. Let's shift gears a little bit and talk about, like, entrepreneurs often have like routines, systems, tools.
Mm.
Some people might call them life hacks or business hacks. Let's just talk about a morning routine, because I think yours is it's not unusual, but it's regimented. It's like, it takes a strong constitution to do what you do. Most people can't. So,
Oh my gosh, I'm curious now.
Tell us about your morning. What time do you wake up?
Well, today I got up a little early. I was up at like 3:30 in the morning, and I was at the gym. Well, my wife used to before she was pregnant, she would go to the gym really early, so we'd have coffee. But she doesn't drink coffee right now because she's pregnant. So I go to Starbucks. And there's only one open, which is like 8 miles from my house. But I go there, and it's kind of a ritual, at least for the time being. And I order my coffee, and then I drink that on the way back, listen to music, and then I go to the gym. And then I get home. I usually eat something, and then I start working. And then my calendar is...
What time are you sitting down in your chair to work?
No later than 7, but like today I was at my desk probably about 6 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah.
So yeah, I could work all the time. And even when I'm not working, I'm studying something. So I don't get bored. Like when I go to bed at night, I'm listening to a podcast that's enriching my mind. And so, I listen to podcasts, and that's where I get a lot of really good information. And you can learn so much information nowadays from YouTube University. And so like, even if you don't have a lot of money and you don't want to buy somebody's coaching program,
Mhm.
you can get a lot of information from YouTube, and you just got to find the right people to follow. And there's a lot of good people out there to follow.
Yeah, I like to say that almost everything you need is available on the internet right now if you want to like start a business, right?
Mm-hmm.
What a coach or a course provides is a curated list of like known good material. But you can go on YouTube and find anything and everything. You just got to figure out what's right and what's wrong, what works for you, what doesn't work for you. So there's a lot of noise involved, like a lot of like filtering, whereas
Okay.
a course or a coach would kind of serve that up to you on kind of like a silver platter for a price. But everything out there is free. You know, everything out there on YouTube is free for the most part. So you
Right.
can do it. There's literally no excuse for people to go, well, I can't find the information. It's because you're not looking for it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And I spend a lot of money on coaching and personal development every year. Thousands and thousands of dollars.
Yes,
but the best investment you can make in yourself is in yourself, right? So,
Mm-hmm.
Right.
like when I decided, what I was going to say is when I decided, because I saw a need to educate people and I didn't know about the franchise industry other than I would finance the deals. Then I sought out and I joined a franchise association, and I learned, and I continue to learn about different franchises, how you help clients buy franchises, right? So like, I invested well over 20 grand in that business right there. And I didn't start working in that business for a while because I had to learn, but I wasn't in a rush. But a lot of people won't invest, right? But I looked at it and go, hey, if I invest this 20 grand, even if it takes me 2 years, once I figure it out, it's going to make me hundreds of thousands of dollars. And so that's how you have to look at everything. What's the ROI? So I've invested, I don't know, I should add it up sometime, but I don't know, probably this year alone, probably 50 grand at least.
Wow. Yeah. And, some people would say that that's a lot of money, but and it is, but when you see it coming back like you do, I mean, it's completely worth it. You talked a lot about you said, I read constantly, I do all this coaching. What would you say if you had to pick like a book about business or leadership or entrepreneurship or along those lines, like what would you say one of the most valuable books that somebody could pick up and read today?
So I will say that I don't really read. I listen on Audible, but the one thing I will say about that is I'm going back to reading now because I want to start taking notes in the book. So I'm just going to start buying books again, as far as hard books. But so if you look in my Audible right now, the most recent person I've been listening to, who I love now, and he wrote a book called The Key Person of Influence.
Okay.
His name is Daniel Presley, and it's funny because I just learned about him on YouTube.
Okay.
He was being interviewed, and so that's point in case that how powerful YouTube is. And when you listen to his book or read his book, you're going to learn about being a key person of influence, and it's spot on what he talks about getting on shows, about building an audience, about stepping on stage. I was listening to him today on YouTube. Every time you step on a stage and you get in front of 200 or 300 people, right? I'm going to speak at an event here in Vegas. There's going to be 300 people. 300 people that are probably going to do business with me, at least a percentage of them. And how many of those will become repeat customers or clients, right? And how many of them will give me a referral? Just that room alone is worth multiple six figures to me. But most people don't think about it that way. So the more stages you can get on is very, very important for whatever you want to talk about. And I suggest everybody finds out what they want to talk about and shares their message. Because it's hard for people to do, for some people, right? Like Bill's more introverted in certain ways. And so doing a podcast was probably a little bit more challenging than it was for me. But now that he's doing it, he's at some point it'll be so, right. Like, and I used to be so self-conscious that I would be so scared to get up in class. When I tried to go, I did try to go to junior college, I should say. That was part of it, but it didn't last too long. And I took like a speech class, and I was so nervous. I'd get sweaty and I'd have anxiety. And now I just get up and I realize I say, all the time, and I want to punch myself in the face when I see videos. But I know that I have a good message to share, and I'm willing to do a Toastmasters or something. I hate Toastmasters, but I shouldn't say I hate Toastmasters. I want to learn from something other than Toastmasters, just the way they teach. But I want to be a better speaker, and I want to get on stages. And so, like, the journey of Beau will always evolve. And like, my business coach is freaking 84 years old. 84 years old. And he's still with it. And he could easily be retired, but because he's bringing value to the world and he loves what he does, it's keeping him alive, and he's going to live a longer time on this earth, and he'll be more fulfilled, right? Because there's so many people that work till they're 65, then they're fat and unhappy, and then they die, right? So you got to choose how you want to live your life, and that's so evident out there. Like, you got to be that passionate.
Yeah.
It's funny. It's funny you should say you did public speaking in junior college. Well, I didn't. I actually did, and this points to the introverted nature of me. Is I think I found a loophole in getting around the oral speaking stuff by taking like 3 or 4 extra classes. So I just did that because I did not want to get up in front of people. And then my first, I decided when I was like probably 20 years old or so that the only way I'm going to like overcome my fears is just to, I don't want to say face your fears, but just do it. Like, I was afraid of heights, and I took a job on a skyscraper washing windows in one of my college summers. I'm still afraid of heights, but I feel good that I did it.
Yeah.
I jumped out of a plane once. I'm glad I did it. It was fun. I wanted to do it again as soon as I landed. And my first real job out of college was in retail, where you have to talk to people. So I just, it was, if I wanted to like not live at my parents' house, I had to do something. I had to talk to people. So it became a thing. And then that's kind of why I started these meetups, because initially it's a small group of people. It's 5 or 6 people. And a lot of times they're your friends, they're going to support you. So I'm just talking amongst friends, right? And then it grows and grows and grows, and you kind of grow into it. And it's, people always say you gotta step outside your comfort zone. No, you don't. What you gotta do though is you gotta be in your comfort zone and make it bigger. Like, you can grow your comfort zone. You don't have to jump outside your comfort zone, but you gotta make it bigger if you want to grow.
Okay. Yeah, that makes sense. I feel like I do have to jump outside of my comfort zone a lot of the times. Like, maybe I don't know how to do it gradually like that. That's an interesting perspective. I like that.
It's like you're pushing the walls, right? You're pushing the envelope. You're not like puncturing it with a knife or a sharp object.
We don't have to do it that way.
You're just think of yourself inside a balloon, right? How do you make the balloon bigger? You put more air in it.
Okay.
Right?
Yeah.
You don't push on it because it's going to break. You just give it more oxygen, and it will grow. Same for you.
That makes sense.
Let's talk a little bit about what you do outside of business. Like, you've done some pretty interesting things outside of your business. And I think you know what I'm talking about, but
yeah. So, I mean, I don't know. I love business and I love learning. So I think, to me, like, what I used to do before I was married is I'd go to events, and I'd love to be around people, and like people that were really um, growth mindset. Had a growth mindset. So I'd go to events and I'd travel. There would be an event in San Diego, and I'd spend the weekend there, and just I would do. I did that for like 10 years, and I loved it. And like I didn't really. I did my drinking and partying with my friends, but I really, as I got older, and I had the ability to travel and do things, I'd love to do the weekend trips and just jump in my car, and then I would go learn something. And to me, learning is probably the most fulfilling thing I can do besides eat good food. Um, like food and then learning, or maybe equal, but interesting things. I like, obviously I go to the gym every day, pretty much every day. I barely ever miss a day. Even if I don't want to go hard, I'll go walk on the treadmill. And so I don't miss the gym in the morning. And I like mixed martial arts, like fighting. I don't watch any. I'm like most guys, like football and basketball and all that stuff. I don't watch any sports. The only sport I watch is combat sports, mixed martial arts. I used to do jujitsu when I was younger. It's one of my big regrets that I quit doing martial arts. So I would say, if you should never stop a sport that you like, because that keeps you younger too. But I don't know what, Bill, you were getting at, because
Yeah, I was getting at the MMA stuff, and I was also getting at the powerlifting stuff, which you kind of touched on.
Yeah, I mean, I've tried powerlifting before. I went to a powerlifting gym. I used to do Brazilian jiu-jitsu when I was younger. One time I was going to do like an MMA fight, but I wasn't cut out to be a fighter. I remember that kind of scared me a little bit.
It sucks to get punched in the face, huh?
Yeah,
I bet.
Yeah.
But what I like about like martial arts and wrestling and grappling and stuff like that is the athleticism, the discipline, kind of like and the training aspect. It's like you're going to get in really good shape doing any of those things, and that just a healthy body, healthy mind, they go together, right? So.
Oh, and also I used to volunteer. I was a volunteer mediator, and don't ask me how I became a mediator, but somehow I was like, I read about this mediation.
Don't you have like a certificate or a credential or something in that?
Yeah, so I saw this program for community mediation, so I started like mediating cases. I got trained, like, first it was like neighbor disputes, and they'd come to I volunteered at a nonprofit, and we'd mediate these cases when the neighbors were fighting because the fence was falling down and the one neighbor didn't want to pay for it.
My God. This is really interesting. I want to do this.
And
I
then
want to witness this.
And then I actually want to get back into it. And so, and then I took a practicum at the Hayward, California, small claims court, and we mediate a couple small claims court cases. And then I was like, oh, cool, this is cool. And then I saw that in Northern California, there's a county called Solano County that they were Pepperdine University was putting on an event for mediation, and it was like a really prestigious mediation training, and it was being subsidized by Solano County. It was normally like 10 grand, and I had to pay like $900. And when I get there, it was me and like 30 attorneys in this training.
Wow.
It was all attorneys except for me. So like when I talk about like my hobbies and passions, I like random educational things. Like I want to learn like random stuff that is fulfilling, and mediating is a very important skill, because you have to learn how to actively listen. You have to learn how to resolve issues. It's all the stuff I did when I was selling houses, right? You got the buyer's agent, seller's agent. You got two. You got a seller, you got a buyer. They're pissed off at each other. You got to negotiate. There's a lot of pain points. There's a lot of sometimes disputes, and so the mediation is a great skill to learn. It really is, and I haven't done it in a long time. But I want to take another at UNLV here in Las Vegas. They have a 40-hour workshop, because I like it. I could see myself doing real estate mediation, and maybe I bill, like, you can bill $500-800 an hour or something like that. I would do that. That would be fun.
That would be fun. Yeah.
Yeah. So I've done a lot of random things. I think
I love
when I was
that.
trying, I wanted to be an actor. I also wanted to be an actor and I think I was in like junior college and I was living in San Diego and I took acting classes, but that didn't last long. I realized I was not going to be an actor because I can't remember lines and it just acting really isn't that fun. Um,
Right.
Yeah.
so
Would you
I always
A
say,
had
lot
it.
of repetition.
yeah. Would you say to people to try a lot of things? Like if they're interested in something to just like try it for a while and just to see what happens? Because it seems like you live by that and it's really worked out for you. And I really admire that.
Yeah, I think you got to go deep though. Like with the YouTube thing, Bill and I could have gave up on my YouTube channel and said, "Oh,
Hmm.
let's stop." But as you press forward, and I remember I had closed a couple small deals, but I remember I got a check like 2.5 years ago, and it was like $30,000, and it was from YouTube, and I was like, it was from a deal I closed off of YouTube. And actually,
Hmm.
I have a deal right now. Knock on wood, it may not close, but the point is if it does close, it'll pay me, you know, well over $100,000 on one transaction, which came through my podcast. So,
Amazing.
granted, a lot of deals may not close. That's why, like I told Bill the other day when I was talking to him, I thought I had a deal that was going to pay me about 14 grand and it fell out, right? Like that happens in our
Hmm.
business. You can't lose sleep over it because you're going to get too stressed out because it is a stressful business sometimes.
Hmm.
But I would say, yes, you do want to try things and you want to go deep with things, though. You can't just try, you can't dabble, you have to go deep. You have to go hard when you try things because
Hmm.
you're not going to get results. If I said, "Oh, I want to try YouTube," and I did 10 videos and I got 5 views and nobody ever called me from it, I didn't really
Right.
try it, right?
You
So
didn't. Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
the other
Okay.
thing I want to point out too,
Yeah, go ahead.
the other thing I want to point out is that I think it's good to spark your creativity and allow your kind of talk, like following up with what Megan was talking about or asking about.
Hmm.
And so I was always thinking about business models and like what I could do. When I was 14 years old, this is another thing. I created a design for a piece of boxing equipment, and it was like
Hmm.
focus mitts. And I did. My aunt was a graphic artist. She helped me design the design, and then I sent it in to get a pre-patent to patent the idea, or that I didn't build a prototype. And then I took it to a company called Century. I can't think of the name, but anyways, they did all the infomercials online, and I asked them if they'd be interested in licensing it, and they said no. They wrote back a nice letter and said, "Hey, we like the idea, we're just not interested at this time." And so, anyways, I kind of dropped the ball on that. I didn't pursue it, but like 10 years later, in my 20s, I was watching TV, and somebody else created the same thing that I created. And so the point is that if I would have gone deep with a lot of things that I've had in that I cross paths with over the years, I would have been
Hmm.
way more successful, right? I could have that could have been my, it was called the combo trainer. That could have been mine. I didn't have the follow through. So it's good to try, but you have to have follow through. And I think that's very important. A lot of people, and Bill knows because we work with similar people in different capacities, but a lot of people will try something and then they'll be like, "Hey, it's not working." Well, you haven't really given it a try. Like I'm running
Right.
ads, right? I'm running Facebook ads right now, and it's kind of frustrating because I'm spending $75 a day, and we just converted 4, I think. But I'm like, I'm going to convert more. How come? But the thing is, you can't just expect it to work amazing at first. I mean, if you might get lucky and it converts amazingly, but the reality of it is 99% of the people, you have to learn how to run Facebook ads. You have to learn how to build the little mousetraps per se for Facebook ads. But if you could run ads and then get 100 people to come to your event, and you could do that religiously, and it costs
Hmm.
you $2 or $5 for every person to attend your event, right? Like you get really good at that stuff. So I think it's good to try, but also you also have to go deep and you have to figure out what needs to be tweaked with whatever you're doing, right? And then at some point, yes, you have to say, hey, this isn't the best for me. It's not working the way I want. But if I would have done that with the franchise business, right? Like, because I didn't really get traction for the first year and a half. Now I wasn't totally trying with it, but once I understood it and I got traction with it, now I have, 10 or 15 clients right now. Right. And those are nice deals. Those are $20,000 plus type of commission. So
right.
The point is it's all doable. I think you do have to try and find your stride, but you also have to realize that you have to give it enough effort to find your stride.
Yeah, I think on one of these podcasts we should dig deeper into that, because there's an element of like passion. People tell you follow your passion. Some people will tell you, well, find something that's profitable and do that, and that will become your passion because you'll enjoy it. You'll enjoy making that money. And I still think the passion thing works, but you got to be really passionate about something, and you have to be persistent. You have to have grit. You have to be able to face rejection, because every time somebody dislikes your video, that's rejection, right?
Yeah.
Or makes a negative comment, and that can really get you down, especially if you're like introverted like me, who doesn't want to be out there in the first place, right? Well, fuck you people, right?
Yeah.
I'm not doing this anymore. But you almost have to tell yourself, well, maybe you do have to tell yourself, I'm going to commit to this for a year, or I'm going to commit to this with 100 videos, or I'm going to commit to this for something. Make a commitment to yourself and don't waver from it. It's like Beau goes to the gym every morning, even when he doesn't want to go, even when he's sick, even when he's got COVID, even when, whatever, he goes, right? And some people will tell you, don't go to the gym when you're sick. Well, if you're like infectious, you probably shouldn't go, right? But, if you've got a cold or whatever, go to the gym, man. It's not going to hurt you or anybody else. But there's a point, right, where let's say you've made that commitment and you've done all those things and you've spent X dollars and you've spent X time and it's just not working. Maybe it's not your thing.
Right.
And how do you tell? How do you tell? And I don't know that there's an answer. I mean, part of me says that everybody can do anything with enough persistence. But I also know that everybody can't be a brain surgeon, for example, right? So there's a line that you kind of have to figure out.
Yeah.
But so many times in business, people quit right before they were going to make it.
Yeah. Gosh,
right before that inflection point.
Yeah. Gosh, I think when it's just not making you happy anymore and you don't see the joy in it, you don't see a future in it anymore, like when you feel like detached from whatever it is, like, yeah, I don't know what the answer is to that. What do you think the answer is to that?
Well, as I get a little wiser in my life, I've realized that I'm good at certain things and I really hate doing certain things. And so once you figure that part out, it's like, for example, I don't like the details of the loan processing, right? So, or if I get a very small loan, I have a team that just does everything, and I get paid less, but it's fine because I might spend 20 minutes as opposed to spending 2 or 3 hours on that same deal. So now I have, right. And I like to do the front end sales process with the franchise. And I have a partner that does the day to day and likes to meet with the client every week. And like, you figure out what you're really strong with, and then you delegate or get partners. Right. And that could be having virtual assistants that do your editing. And right, like I've always worked with VAs and virtual assistants in the Philippines and different places. So I think you just got to find your stride. You have to learn how to say no to people. Like some people will book like 3 calls and I'm not making any money. And it's like, no, you get your first call, and they'll take advantage of my kindness sometimes. So I'm learning to like not allow that to happen again, right? Like I'll have an initial call with you. Is there something I can help you with right now? If not, I do have paid coaching now, right? Because like if you want my time, you're gonna have to pay for it.
Right.
I on YouTube, I say you can have a 15-minute strategy call with me for free. Some people will book 2 or 3 calls. It's like, okay, you're taking advantage of this, and now you're going to pay a couple $100 at least, if not more, right? Like, and then but a lot of people ask me before I even thought about that. They're like, oh, do you have any coaching programs or anything, or do you know, right? Like, and I should have always been doing that, right? Because my time is valuable, and you have to respect your time. So this year I've gotten better at respecting my time and understanding what I want to do and just do that. So I like to do the marketing and sales and figure the thing out and then give it to somebody to actually do, right? Like I have really good ideas, but if Bill wasn't helping me, I wouldn't get it done, right? Because I need an integrator. It's that's the book Traction, EOS. So if you're like this person, then you need a Bill, right? And I always tell Bill, you're like the other side of my brain, because Bill could figure out pretty much anything. Like especially you talking about technology, like, hey Bill, like I want to do this, this, and this, and he'll figure it out, right? Like that's not my skill set, but my skill set is ideas, marketing, branding, and like building the Beau brand and bringing in business. This is what I'm good at, and figuring like real estate stuff out. But I'm not good at making it work, where a guy like Bill is good at making it work. So you have to find people that you can work with that can make the other side of your brain so it's cohesive. And then that's how you really grow, because you're not going to get big by yourself, right? You can do about $1 million business by yourself if you're extremely gifted. Like as a solopreneur, you could do $1 million. But if you really want to grow, you have to know how to build team and build community and build organization. And you can do that with all virtual assistants and staff, right? It doesn't have to be like W-2 employees, but you need those people. You have to find those people that will help you in your life, because if you don't, you're probably not going to get the results you want. You have to, all the great big companies that grow huge, it's because they get venture funding, or they're growing enough revenue and they can hire or outsource all that stuff, and they don't try to do it themselves. Like if you're editing your own videos, you shouldn't be, right? Because my highest and best use is being on the phone with a potential client and solving their problem and doing that in an efficient manner. So if I spent my time doing editing, it wouldn't make sense. Whereas I can get a VA that's a 10 times better VA than me, and I could pay them $6 an hour. So that's why I would say that you don't want to, if you're doing this to monetize, like I'm doing my podcast to monetize, you have to build systems, right? Like you have to, unless you're the guy I was talking about that doesn't edit, but he still has somebody doing his thumbnails and everything. So he is outsourcing to a certain degree.
Right.
Yeah. Well, cool. We've covered a lot. It's been an hour and 5 minutes or so.
Yeah.
Anything to say on close, or any other questions you have, Megan?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, you seem you're obviously very successful, and we ask people what success means to them. And I think that that's a very different thing than just saying, like, I think that you're successful. So what success, like, what does that mean to you? When do you feel like you've reached success, or what does that look like?
I definitely don't think I'm at the point I want to be right now. For many years, I would judge myself against my friends, or, colleagues and things. And a lot of them are my friends. And fortunately, a lot of my friends are very successful. You're talking about people that have $30-40 million net worths. And, you start judging yourself like, geez, I'm so minuscule to these people. But then I'm thinking, well, the reality of it is that the majority of American people live on $50,000 a year of income, right? Like I'm in kind of a different realm.
Right.
So as I get older and wiser, I define success as I think it's being full circle, right? Like when we're on our deathbed, pretty much when we die, nobody's really going to remember us, right? Like there's very few people that are remembered when they're dead.
Right.
So, I think dying with millions of dollars would be great, but that doesn't mean anything, right? Like it really comes down to the memories that people have of you. And like, so success to me is not really, the big thing about success is not really worrying about money, not worrying about like where the next check's coming from is success, where, money's covered, your expenses are covered. You can do what you want realistically. You don't need to go buy Ferraris and that kind of stuff. And then it's just being successful is people like you, like you're somebody that gives back to society in a way. So like a lot of times I'll go to the supermarket or something and I'm holding the door, right? And like it really irks me if somebody doesn't say thank you or gives me eye contact. So I always try like those things. I think make you successful. Like if you're willing to like do stuff that makes sense to hopefully more people, like, hey, like if somebody opens a door for you, acknowledge them, give them eye contact. We're losing that in our society. So being successful to me, that's the goal is like, I could bring value to the more people I can bring value to, then I'm successful, right? I'm successful if I can share something with people. And that'll give like, that's what I enjoy the most. I went back to the Bay Area and I had a meetup for my real estate group and I hadn't been back in 4 years. And this guy came up to me and he's like, man, I just want to thank you. Cause like I met Mike at your meetup and this guy was a new realtor. He met Mike and he's done like 20 transactions because of the event I put on. And I've got like, this other guy that's in one of my groups was like, I get these things like this one guy, he's like a big, it's not Vinny, it's another guy. He spoke at our event and he's like, yeah, you were one of the first stages I got to. And now I have $1 billion multifamily and real estate portfolio. Not that I did it for him, but then that's when I realized that I have accomplished a lot and I never celebrate those things. And that's what being successful is to me. Long story short.
Yeah. I like that answer. Yeah. And remembering to celebrate those things. Yeah.
Well, Beau really embodies the whole, like there are certain things like cliches and stuff in the entrepreneurial world. One of them is, your net worth is dependent on your network, right? Or something to that effect. Like the bigger your network, the more your net worth, right? And that's what these guys go to. There's also the hustle culture and all that kind of stuff. And Beau is a networker, and it's not because he has this ulterior motive. He likes people, he connects people, and the way he connects people is, how can I solve this person's problem if I can't do it myself? And as we know, none of us can do everything. So he finds people, well, he doesn't even find people. He knows all these people who can do the various things, and he just puts them together, and everybody wins. It's like everybody shares the pie.
Yeah.
It's incredible, and it's a gift, and I have to tell him all the time that that's what you do. That's who you are. And we used to do events in the Bay Area and get 300 or 400 people to show up. Like, that's hard to do, because when you think about it, in the Bay Area on a Saturday morning, right? People have shit to do.
Yeah.
It's hustle bustle. It is hustle culture in California, especially with business people and all the tech execs and entrepreneurs and whatnot. They don't, if they're choosing to go to your event, it means it's adding value to them. They're not going there because they have the leisure time.
Right.
So he could put on an event every month and get 300 or 400 people to show up. It's just a fact. And they all benefit from it. And I think that's a gift. I really do.
Mhm.
All right. Well, Beau, thank you very much for coming on. I know we
Thank
had to
you.
reschedule you a few times, all due to our foibles.
Yeah.
So thank you. I'd love to have you on again. I think you shared maybe like 2% of what you do and what you know. So you're always welcome back.
I just hope that because my bandwidth's so slow, I feel like I'm talking very slow. I hate when it's, I don't know why. Usually Riverside doesn't do this, but man, it's like, I'm like in slow motion.
You're in slow
Yeah.
motion on my screen. It's just your picture. I mean, everything in voice is coming out great, but your picture is kind of in and out of slow motion. But I'm sure it'll be fine.
know,
We'll figure it out.
And it's hard. It's hard to be looking at the three people and not look at yourself while you're talking and go, "Why the hell am I moving?" And then your speech slows down to try to match your mouth, and it just gets worse and worse and
I
worse.
know. It's so funny. That's why I'm like, oh, I hope it renders, because it's like, what am I looking at? I'm like, I don't know. It's all right. It'll all work out. That's why you just say,
It'll be good.
if you hear it, if you see it, I look a little bit weird. It's because my bandwidth on my end is very slow right now.
Yeah, it's okay. It'll be fine. All right, Beau. Well, thank you
All
very
right.
much.